had lots of stories in my head, but I never wrote them down. The more anime I watched, the more I thought, what if they were all together? I mean, I really liked them. What if I made a world with all of them together? My name is Alex Estrada. I have autism, and my dream is to be a writer.
Who is Daydream Alex? To me, I think Daydream Alex is Alex finally taking control of what he wants to take control of and doing the things that he ultimately wants to do. He wants to be a writer. He wants to be a social icon. He wants to be so many different things. And the Familia of Trust is his first draft and gateway to that.
He's got long shoulder-length hair, six-pack abs, and he dresses like guys like Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair, Randy Macho Man Savage. Even though he himself is an anti-hero, the difference is Daydream Alex can work with others. He likes working with others.
Okay. So before we jump into the brain games class, Alex did not get to share his article for current events before, right?
That's right.
Okay. So that you're going to take a couple minutes and do now for us, okay?
Okay.
Do you want to come up or do you want to stay there and do it?
I'll sit here and do it like I always do. Tom Shell Record newspaper, page 2, current event.
Your father would
Tuesday,
push your
February
brother
25th, 2020.
where I didn't feel he needed to be pushed. He would put him in social situations and say, no, he needs to realize that he has to be here and that he can be with kids.
I couldn't really go to him for problems because he would always say, oh, don't be such a big baby. Don't text me any more of these problems. Man up. Including employees that was one of them being his wife.
Any injuries?
They're gonna be all right.
Good. Okay.
It's a fact of life, I think, for a lot of fathers. They've spent the bulk of their fatherhood preparing their children for when they're no longer there. Hopefully, kids know that when they feel their fathers being heavy-handed or seem to be unfair, that it's really trying to be a lesson in life.
Tried to burn down a whole gas station.
With you inside, like that to me I think is like the thing that's getting me is that she was inside the gas station and he tried to do that.
Yeah.
So, well, I'm glad that he at least is getting punished for it, right?
Yeah.
Can we all agree that?
Yep.
Are there any bad guys on Daydream Alex's island?
No.
Well, there are some bad guys that are turned good by him.
To this day, your father will say, my method worked. Your mother said I didn't accept it, but I did. I think a part of your father was, my son is broken. And he needed to try to make him unbroken. Didn't make him love him any less, but it was difficult to watch sometimes.
I was
Mama!
I was having a life like it's just
I do that to her all the time.
Oh, my heart is racing. Stop it.
And I've told Lisa this when she's admonished me for being that heavy-handed, that one day I'm not going to be here. You're not going to be here. And people sometimes are cruel and life is cruel. And Alex and Raquel will have to learn how to deal with it without us being around for advice or for guidance or for having their back. They're going to have each other's back.
Do you remember the day that Grandma Lucy died?
No, I do not.
She was the one that picked them up after school every day off the bus, took them to her house, fed them, made sure they did their homework. So I always thought my mom was always going to be there.
When I would show her stuff on YouTube and she would crack up.
Just crack up.
And we went to horse races, I remember. I do remember loving her French fries and pancakes when I was little.
We had gotten a phone call from your grandfather that something was wrong with her. And your dad, probably like 11 o'clock, drove over to the house.
And I walked in. And I fell on her. And I started screaming, "Oh no." And the first thing I said was, "What am I going to tell my kids?"
It really hurt. She was the last, so far she's the only funeral I cried at.
And Alex was very stoic throughout the wake. And by stoic, I mean he wasn't showing much emotion.
And then it was about, I want to say maybe a week later, maybe even 2 weeks later, that Lisa and I were sitting here watching television. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we hear this loud sobbing and wailing. And we're like, "What's that? What's going on?" And Raquel screamed out, "It's Alex, it's Alex." And when we had turned around, he was sitting on the table. He had on the stairs. He had kind of collapsed and just started yelling, "Grandma, Grandma." And that was his first emotional outlet of finally realizing that Grandma wasn't around anymore at the time.
I do visit her grave, and as Grandma Gloria would say, I keep them alive. I keep their memories alive for everyone, Uncle Ivan and Grandma Lucy.
Here's to a wonderful time with family and shooting Alex's documentary.
Yay! And here's to Daydream Alex.
Oh, yes, cheers to that.
Hey, here's to the real Alex.
Yay!
Yay! Here's Dino.
How did he get to the island?
He just created it.
He just made the island?
Yeah, he
That's
creates
crazy.
it with his mind.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It has to have a proper happy ending, and it has to be of good skills, and has to be an exciting anime and have scared characters with good skills that would be of good use to him.
And one day, I got a call from the teacher that there was a concern because she had asked Alex to answer a question several times. The teacher kept pushing him for the answer, and he eventually reacted by picking up a school desk and throwing it across the room.
Even though he is the same good person he really is, he sometimes wants to cover it up to prove that he can be just as good as everyone else.
My concern was, at the time, up until that point, Alex had never shown any tendency towards being violent in any way. I was afraid that he didn't know his own strength at the time and that he would hurt somebody if he did something like that. And so Alex came home that day, and I laid into him hard. I actually hit Alex. I hit him with a belt across the bottom portion of his leg.
I'm like, "What? You hit him with a belt on his leg?" Your dad wasn't home yet, and I'm talking to Alex. I'm like, "Alex, talk to me, what happened?" He told me the story.
My teacher kept saying over and over about it. I just snapped and I knocked down a bunch of desks.
I'm like, "Alex, you shouldn't have done that with the desk. I'm sorry, we love you." Maybe about half an hour later, I come back in the house and I hear your father screaming.
All I have is saying hi to them.
Gotcha.
And, a big battle in the last chapter.
Yeah, what's the battle? Tell me a little bit about the battle.
Well, he gets kidnapped by something called dark matter.
Dark matter? What's dark matter?
It's like a powerful being, like it from A Wrinkle in Time. you can't really see it, but it's very powerful.
And Alex was laying right there in the hallway on the floor seizing.
And I remember screaming, Alex, Alex, what's going on? And he obviously couldn't talk at the time. And I kept saying, looking up, God, don't do this to me again, because I had visions of my mom at the time. The ambulance operator said, listen, there's a lot of stomach flu going out. Maybe he's got the stomach flu. He went over to the local hospital.
And your father says, why don't you go home and grab him some things? So I come home, and I remember I got him a change of clothes. I went downstairs, and I was almost out the door when I see his medication. And I'm like, oh, I got to bring his meds. So I lifted the bottle. It was empty.
Did you ever try to reach out to anyone?
I didn't think I needed to because, my parents are my parents and my teachers are my teachers. I just felt that they would catch on and realize what I was going through. I was just hoping they would realize that.
For a couple of weeks, I was depressed. I thought that I had caused my son to commit suicide by hitting him after he had his episode at school. It was a very difficult time. And then a short time later, Lisa was going through his backpack, and he had written a suicide note. That kind of relieved me a little bit of guilt of thinking that I was the reason for it. We had actually gotten notification from Lisa's aunt that she had read somewhere that kids with autism right around the age of 15 begin contemplating suicide.
We wouldn't leave him alone. I'd make him come with me everywhere. We locked up the medicine. He one day said to me, when will you ever trust me again? And I said, I trust you.
You're so tall. Give me a kiss. Oh.
In the end, I figured out that I just didn't know who my brother was. I think that's why I had such a hard time grappling with who Daydream Alex was and why I wanted to make this in the first place. I wasn't thinking about my brother, Alex. I was thinking about my autistic brother who had this Daydream Alex character that I couldn't understand. So hopefully, by the end of all of this, I get a little bit of a better grasp at the person I grew up next to, and I can finally start to be there for him like I should have been for his entire life.
I just feel that since I've graduated, I got no reason to be scared anymore.
You're an adult now.
Yeah.
Ever catch a shooting star? Tell me how high did you soar? Ever felt like you were dreaming, just to find that you're going, and the magic that surrounds you can lift you up and guide you on your way. I can see it in the stars across the sky. Dreamt 100,000 dreams before.